Hello. So, I need to turn this down for myself. We are here with, as you can see, UBL Season 13. I'm excited. So, yeah, UBL Season 13 is a biggie because, we've got a few changes. First of all, cannot believe I have now won 3 seasons in a row. I think as long as UBL goes on, that's not going to happen again. So, feel pretty good about that. So yeah, but a new season, and as I said, some big changes because we expanded a bit. We actually managed to get 16 people. So we've actually split the draft into 2 divisions this time. So we have the Dusk draft and the Dawn draft. And we drafted with everyone in the Dawn draft, and we'll be playing everyone in the Dawn division. In the regular season, which is going to be 7 weeks. So hopefully 4-3 should be enough to get us there. 5-2 is guaranteed, so fingers crossed. We can make playoffs at least. The ultimate goal, though, isn't just winning in the division. No. Because once we get to playoffs, if we get to playoffs, I suppose, though I feel very confident, then hopefully we can win in playoffs and win our division, because the division champion goes to take on the other division champion in grand finals, and that's what I really want to win. So this time no memes. I wanted to draft new Pokemon, some different Pokemon at least, because I'd like to do that. So but other than that, we're here to win. Not just the Dawn division, we're here to win the whole thing. So, yeah, that is the plan. So, that also means we're not going to be seeing as many familiar faces. There are going to be some new faces as well that we play. In fact, our week 1 is a new coach. So, yeah. We're going to be seeing how that goes. But this is about our draft and our pick order and how the draft went as a whole. Nothing's really changed in terms of the way we're doing our draft. For those who haven't been around for a while, it's S. We get 1 S tier, 1 A tier, 2 B tiers, 2 C tiers, a D tier, and then 4 free picks. You can't get an S tier. A's cost 100, B's cost 75, C's cost 50, D's cost 25, E's a 0, and they're bad mons for the most part. There's a couple like decent ones in there, but for the most part they're bad, and we get 250 points total. So there's also S plus tiers, but if you take an S plus instead of an S, you get stuck with a B instead of your free A pick. So you have to take 3 B's before starting to go. Instead of getting 1 allocated to you. Anyway, enough rambling. What did I pick? So, I picked some very strong Pokemon. As a part of the mod team, we made some decisions, to keep some Pokemon banned. We decided to keep the Urshifus and Iron Hands banned. Urshifus just because they're not fun to play against, and Iron Hands because it's really impressive in draft. We actually brought back Fluttermane and was not drafted, which is very funny. But we also made some tier shifts as well. One big notable one is we actually changed Dondozo and how it works, because no one wanted to draft Dondozo because it was an S and Tatsugiri was an A. So we changed how it works, so you actually can't have Dondozo and Tatsugiri combine. We removed the ability Commander, or at least banned it. But that also made Dondozo able to come down to A, and Chatsukiro drop down a tier as well, so it was really cool. We also brought some other Pokemon from S to A as well, and I ended up taking one of those. Now, there were 3 big ones that came down. There was Iron Valiant, who came down from S to A, because while we've been doing tiers, it's never been picked. And it's very rarely been picked before, other than by exclusively Gambit. I think they're the only one who have taken it. So, yeah. We decided to bring this down, and yeah, funnily enough, got drafted. But not by me. Another big one, Garchomp. King at the start of the generation. But as more and more powerful Pokemon have come along, kind of have been outclassed. We brought it down a tier, and didn't get drafted in both divisions. I think it only got drafted in one. So, yeah. Because the drafts have separate pools. So, yeah. But the last one was one that was suggested when we were going through suggestions of Pokemon to change tiers. And this was one I was like, you want to bring this down to A? And let this thing terror? Sure, be my guest. If that's what you want to try and do. And funnily enough, it was picked in both divisions. But it was, for me, my first pick. And that is Spectria. I think Spectria is an amazing Pokemon in draft, for the record. I think Spectria is incredible. It was obviously not getting picked in S, because then it can't Terror. But in A with Terror, it's very dangerous. Incredible stats, and obviously the ability is nuts. It snowballs out of control immediately with Grenade. You give it one kill and the game can just end. And 130 speed already gives us an extremely high speed stat. 145 special attack stat is deadly, to say the least. And it just needs a little bit of the right support to get there. To set up, because it has both Calm Mind and Nasty Plot. Shadow Ball will just nuke things, whether you're Life Orb, Spell type, whatever. As well as now access to Draining Kiss, and of course, Terror and Terror Blast. So you can do Terror Blast Fighting or Fairy or whatever, as well as Draining Kiss, which, if you don't know as well, has a second buff for moves like Draining Kiss, because there's a hidden buff. So if you use a move that is less than 60 base power of a type that you have terrored into, it gets bumped up to 60, except priority moves. Priority moves don't get that buff. But that means Draining Kiss goes up from 50 to 60, and then gets the stat buff if we go Terra Fairy, so it essentially becomes 90 base power. And it turns into Diet Flutter Mane, which, I'm sorry, Diet Flutter Mane in an A is insane. Not only that, it also gets great supporting moves. One of the reasons why I really like Spectria is because it gets Haze, which is really nice, especially on such a fast Pokemon, and it gets a Will-O-Wisp and Taunt, and Scary Face, and Snarl. All amazing support moves on such a fast Pokemon. It's really versatile for that reason, but also requires so much, respect as a Pokemon, because if you ignore it and it just gets a kill, then suddenly this Pokemon that may have been built to be bulky and supportive suddenly just starts killing things, and you just don't know how it happened, and the game's just over. So, yeah, Spectre is a very, very deadly Pokemon. And like I say, when it was dropping to A, I was like, yeah, there's no question in my mind this is my number 1 pick. Nothing else matters. Getting Spectre is the most important thing. I think this Pokemon is incredible. For reference, I was 4th out of 8, so I was slap bang in the middle. But it's only an 8-person draft, so it wasn't too bad. I did get sniped a few times, and I had to change accordingly. There was a lot of snipes, by the way. We're all blaming Fat Rat for it, so... there was a lot of snipes going on, so... And the root of the problem was Farhat, so we're all blaming him. But yeah, Spectre, amazing Pokemon, and provides some supporting capabilities while also being an extremely deadly special attacker off the bat. Now, as I said, I wanted to make sure I had the right support for Spectre, and good support for it, because, you know, Spectre does need some support. It can't just do everything on its own. So, I decided to take a page out of the Gen 8 book, where Spectre was incredibly powerful, and give it redirection in a slightly bigger form. So for my next pick, I ended up drafting Clefable. This was another A tier. Clefairy and Clefable were both in A, but I personally prefer Clefable for a couple of reasons. One, it does damage, unlike Clefairy. Clefairy can get taunted, and also can't run the Mental Herb and prevent taunts, because it's got to run the Eviolite, and then gets kind of shut down, whereas Clefable can try and shrug off a taunt with Mental Herb, and still has the decent bulk, while also dealing damage as well, because 95 special attack is still decent, especially, you know, when you're using Moonblast. It's pretty good. As well, like, the abilities are nice. The big difference is Unaware is the Magic Guard, Friend Guard. Like, Magic Guard's still nice. Magic Guard's a really solid ability. There is Q-Charm in some instances as well, but also is Unaware. So, like, Pokemon just can't, like, freely set up and then, like, expect to OHKO Clefable because Unaware exists, and anyone who's played singles knows that Unaware Clefable is a pain. So, yeah. But yeah, big thing here is it's a really good redirector. It can do offensive things on its own. It's got a great move pool, being like an original normal type now turned fairy. It's got an amazing move pool to do offensive things with, things like Calm Mind. If it's able to get that set off, it's incredibly deadly. But for the most part, it's going to be playing that support Pokemon role. With things like Follow Me, Helping Hand, Life Do. I can talk about some things that I'm thinking about as well, because I started making it a habit of uploading the full draft afterwards, but the fact that we have another Pokemon as well that can use Gravity. This can use Gravity as well, but we can do Gravity Sing, which is really, really nice as an option. So, yeah, I think it's just generally really good. Also gets Heal Pulse as well as Life Do. Knock Off just to remove items. If Nightshade is the best way to deal damage, get Nightshade. It's got a lot of great options to be supportive and deal decent damage. Not amazing, but also it can be a win condition. It's not like I've drafted, because this is my fairy type at the end of the day. And I do want to at least make sure my fairy type can do damage if it needs to. At the end of the day, you can't go wrong with a Life Orb Magic Guard. You can just slap that on it and try and deal the damage with the Clefable, because it can. Like, it's still pretty good. So, yeah, that's Clefable. Nothing too crazy. As I say, prefer it over Clefairy, especially in draft. And Clefairy Spectre was an amazing combination in Generation 8. Obviously, there was a few things, you know, making that help, notably Dynamax, but Spectre also didn't have coverage there, whereas now it does. It has Terror and even just Draining Kiss, which is really, really nice. So, this was my starting, like, 2, and then there was one other Pokemon I knew I wanted to get early, and that was focusing on making sure I had a Trick Room mode. So, when I wanted a Trick Room mode, it was really tough, because I couldn't pick Bronzong. No. I could pick Bronzong, but I would rather not. Like, I've used Bronzong a ton, love him, but maybe pick something else. But also, this is already 2 A's. I don't want a 3rd A if I can help it. Ideally, I want to go A double B, but as you can see, things changed and I didn't. So I ended up going with double A and C in my 3 picks, you'll see. So, yeah. But I wanted to make sure I had a solid Trick Room set, and one that was reliable as well, one that was really solid at setting Trick Room. But also I did want it to do damage, especially if it was going to do special damage. I really would have liked that. So, looking in B tier and below, one Pokemon really stuck out to me. It's a Pokemon I don't think I've ever drafted, and I'm really excited to do so. And that is Reuniclus. So, incredibly slow Pokemon. Mungus is drafted in our division, and we have Overcoat for it, and just, yeah, amazing stuff. Really solid bulk. It's got that high HP stat, similar to Spectre, but you can invest in its defenses to kind of help it out. Same with Reuniclus. Lower on the defensive side, but like the high HP is really nice. 125 special attack. It feels low because of power creep, but it's still really solid, and obviously that Premier 30 base speed. Obviously it's not slower than Amoonguss, but with Overcoat being immune to Spore and killing it with Psychic type moves, that's great. Of course, Magic Guard is amazing as well. Like, as I mentioned with Clefable, Life Orb Magic Guard means this thing can do incredible damage. Even if you can't invest a ton in special attack because you want to, bulk it out, it'll still do really good damage. It has decent coverage, just not amazing. Like, notably, it only has Thunder and not Thunderbolt. But it does get Energy Ball, it gets Shadow Ball, it has Terror Blast at the end of the day, Focus Blast, which I pray I never have to use, and for some reason a bunch of physical ones. I guess it does have those giant hands. So, it doesn't get a ton of, like, crazy utility moves, but as I mentioned, Gravity. So this is our Pokemon to get Gravity, and this can also turn Clefable into a really annoying... this is our set main way to set up Trick Room, let's be real here. Follow me Trick Room with these two, and then if I want Clefable to be even more annoying, set Gravity with this and start singing. Very, very easy to do. Reuniclus can also set up very easily. It's a classic Calm Mind Sweeper, because of access to Recover, and even with Terror, and it's an amazing Pokemon. Can do really great damage, and the couple supporting things it can do, especially if it is able to set up Trick Room, is really nice. Excuse me. The only thing I don't like about it is, sadly, this is our only Trick Room setup, and that really sucks. So if Reuniclus is gonna come, it probably has to set Trick Room. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it was Season 10 when I used Bronzong, and that came like every week as a potential way to set Trick Room if I feel like Trick Room just ends up being the better way for me to play a matchup. And obviously Reuniclus isn't as good as Bronzong, but it's still a really bulky Pokemon that can take at least a couple hits while dealing respectable damage and being able to set up that Trick Room, which is really nice. And with the support that it already has in Clefable to help set up that Trick Room, that's really, really nice. So, can defensively Terror, can offensively Terror for different coverage. Really solid Pokemon all around, and excited to use Reuniclus. Our little blobby boy. He is a very good boy. I do love him. He's a very, very cute lad. So, from here, what am I saying? From here I end up getting sniped. I thought, actually. Basically, at this point I wanted a fast Tailwind setter in B tier or below. And all of them went. Like, every single one that had a high speed stat. I was looking at Noivern, that went. I was looking at Rabombi, that went. I was looking at Kilowattrel, that went. All of them went. And I was like, well... So, I was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do next. Because I don't know what I'm going to do about this Tailwind situation. Because I really want Tailwind. Because I've got a Spec trigger. And I really want to give that thing some fast speed control. So, in the meantime, I decided to take another Pokemon instead. while I kind of reconfigured my plan that I still knew I wanted. Looking at how my plan was shaping up to be, I ended up wanting to pick up an offensive poison type. Because I knew, looking at like my overall draft, that fairies could be an issue. So I wanted to make sure I had an offensive poison type. And this one also gives us a lot of speed, as well as it gives us a fire type. We are drafting Salazzle. This was a C tier, which it makes sense why it's a C tier, but it's still a really solid C tier. 117 speed, 111 special attack, really solid. Oblivious means it can't be taunted, and I guess immune to intimidate, and corrosion's a really solid ability in some matchups as well. But something else that it also gets is Fake Out. Woo! 117 speed Fake Out. Not many Pokemon have a faster Fake Out in this. I think someone has drafted Ambipom, that's 115. But other than that, like, the mons that come to mind that are faster are like Sneasler and Weavile. And they're not I don't think those were drafted. I don't know if it's out in Activision, but I know Mienshao was at least drafted somewhere. But that's really about it, because Mienshao has inner focus, so it's kind of like a win, just like trading fake outs basically. But really, other than that, it's like an incredibly fast fake out user and has good offense and good support. This is like offensive support at its finest. Because again, 111 special attack with an amazing offensive typing, like Poison Fire hits so much. You know, with Flamethrower / Heat Wave and then Sludge Bomb, maybe Sludge Wave, but we'll see about that Steel type. Or I guess Terra Steel as well. Really the only offensive moves it needs, other than maybe if I want Dragon Pulse or a Terra Blast. But otherwise, the support options are incredible. With Encore and Knockoff and Taunt and Thunderwave. For some reason, why does this get Thunderwave? I don't know. But the big one is Acid Spray. Acid Spray is really nice in combination with Spectra. Obviously, Spectra is faster, but in some matchups where I can run Salazzle faster than Spectra and bulk out the Spectra a bit and make it so I can go for Acid Spray first, then we can really take some Pokemon down really nicely. So, nothing to write home about otherwise. I thought this got Snarl. Did I Snarl? No, this doesn't get Snarl. Okay. Spectra does. But yeah, as well as Fake Tears. Fake Tears and Acid Spray are both really nice. Obviously, like, one could be Terra Steel, but if you're going to Terra Steel in front of Salazzle, then, you know, be my guest, I'll hit you with a fire move afterwards. Like, most of the time, Salazzle will often run just Fake Out, like, Fake Out, offensive moves, and some support. Which I know that sounds very, like, super generic, but, like, that's kind of what it does. Like, oftentimes it will be Sash, but there's also options to use it to set up Trick Room, and then use Overheat with the Eject Pack, so you can just get out and get in a Trick Room Sweeper in safely, which is really nice. But also Fake Out just gives options to shut down opposing Pokemon, give more options to set up things instead of just relying on Clefable's Follow Me. Like maybe Clefable's just really bad to a matchup. Like, you know, into a Steel type, for example, who Salazzle really wants to kill without a Fire type move. Sounds really nice. But also Fake Out just offers different utility, as well as the super high speed stat. I can't really undersell that speed stat, but it's so good. It's 1 point faster than Iron Valley, which is incredibly high in all the base 115s that exist. So, yeah. Great Pokemon, really excited to use Salazzle. At this point, I managed to reconfigure my plan a bit, but this is a Pokemon I ended up changing in Grace, so we're going to talk about the Pokemon that I ended up picking up instead. Because I wasn't super happy with some of the Pokemon I ended up picking up, and changed them out. So, originally, in this, so basically I wanted a Water type. I wanted Fire, Water, Grass, Core, you know, the classic. but it also kind of had to be a physical attacker, which, surprisingly, Gen 9, that's not actually asking for a lot. A lot of the water types in this generation are physical attackers, but I also just kind of wanted a good one. One that offered me some good offense, but also maybe some sort of utility as well. And originally I ended up picking up a Quavel, because I wanted... It was a speed tier that I was really struggling to get. But in Grace, I managed to kind of fix that speed tier a bit and pick up the Pokemon I originally wanted in this slot, which is Tauros Paldea Aqua, also known as Water Tauros, so I'll be calling it for the remainder of the video. I ended up picking up this in Grace over Quavel. I originally wanted this on the team, but then things changed, and I was like, do I have the right speed tiers to support this? And eventually I did. I was able to finagle it. So, Water Tauros, great Pokemon, 100 base speed, gives us something between Salazzle and, you know, an upper speed tier now. And while it doesn't have the best supporting moves in general, like, I think it's, like, the fact that it can break screens with Raging Bull, and that's kind of it. It mostly hits pretty hard. But obviously the big thing here is Intimidate. It gets Intimidate, it's great. Like, Intimidate is already more than enough support for the team. It supports itself, it supports the partner, reduces the offensive output, and makes Tauros a lot bulkier than it would otherwise be. And speaking of offensive capabilities as well, it's really solid. Aqua Jet for priority, close combat for extreme damage, high horsepower for ground coverage, Raging Bull, 90 base power stab that can break screens, or if I need the extra power, we've got Wave Crash as well, which is amazing. Wild Charge to hit opposing water types. So it's really solid coverage, and kind of its best general set that can come to pretty much any game is just an Assault Vest set to just deal, just outspeed a few things that are bulky, take hits, deal really solid damage, and it just feels like a Pokemon that can come to pretty much any matchup just because it's so generally good. Like, it feels just like a really solid, sturdy Pokemon that feels like it can come to pretty much any matchup. It feels really solid. Just because of the stats and the typing, the ability, and can just do generally good damage overall. Feels like a Pokemon that just isn't bad, like any matchup. I guess if there's a ton of Defiant and competitive, then maybe it's not so great, but even then it's got Clutchew if it needs to run a different ability, but still wants to have the, the offensive power, with the offensive coverage that this offers. So yeah, I really like Tauros for this, or Water Tauros, so really excited to use it. And glad I was able to pick it up in Grace as well. Next up, this is one of the couple Pokemon on this team that I have actually used before, though not in a while. Only, I think, really at the start of the generation, and not even in UBL have I used it in this generation. So, not that I can remember. I don't think I have in this generation. It's been a while. He's a great boy. He's a lovely grass type that I love dearly, that I used back in Gen 8, and I love him to bits. And it's even on the screen right now, because we don't even have to type it in or scroll down too far. It's Appleton, baby. I love Appleton. So yeah, I can't say enough I love Appleton. I drafted this in SPS in Gen 9. That's the only time I've used it, though, in Gen 9. I haven't actually drafted it in UBL. So, like, I think the last time I drafted it was Season 6 in UBL. So, yeah. It's been a long time. And, I mean, SPS... God, that was like couple years ago, maybe. So yeah, been a while. But it gives us a nice slow bulky grass type. It gives us a dragon type, and with Terror, I think Appleton's amazing. So, with access to thick fat means it doesn't have to Terror to, you know, not lose to ice types. Or can use Gluttony to essentially make it so it can use a like a figgy berry, like a 33% recovery berry instead. So yeah, really solid Pokemon. Super bulky, can kind of do two like main things. Like it can be super annoying with like Leech Seed and potentially Iron Defense Body Press. Kind of what I did with Chestnut last season. Like once or twice. I think it's much better than Chestnut for that, trust me. it's so much better than Chestnut for that. Iron Defense Body Press with this one is incredibly deadly. Especially when how bulky it is, because it's not just bulky on one side, it's bulky on both. Again, that low-ish defenses on 80 either side is kind of made up for the fact that it's got 110 base HP. I didn't realize how many Pokemon on my team have really high base HPs. Strange. Anyway, but yeah, it's really solid for that, especially because it has Recover on its own as well, so it doesn't need to rely on Leech Seed and Lefties to actually get recovery. The other thing as well is, like, 100 special attack is not bad, especially with, you know, Grass Dragon coverage. With Apple Acid lowering special defense, with Giga Drain or Energy Ball for the more damaging options, and then Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor, and then potentially a Terra. Usually you see Terra Fire or Terra Fighting on Appleton. Terra Fire just because it resists so much for it. And then Terra Fighting for stronger body presses. But yeah, it's a really solid Pokemon. I'm really excited to use it again. Just gives us something else to use slow in Trick Room, or just kind of be an endgame super bulky bomb. Gives us options, also gives us a grass type, which is really nice, because obviously we don't have a lot for water types right now. So, gives us a dragon, to help complete the Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Gives us a grass to complete our Fire Water Grass Core. So, yeah, not a slow Pokemon that has to be used in Trick Room due to its applications otherwise. But yeah, really excited to use Appleton again. Love the little guy. So yeah, that's pick what would I be on? That's 6. So next up is going to be that Tailwind. After a while, I was like, okay, it's finally time to pick up this Tailwind, because I really would rather not it go. I would like to have this, so yeah. Because I couldn't go with a B-tier Tailwind setter, I ended up going with an A-tier one, and the A-tier one I settled on wasn't a super fast one. But if there's one thing that this Pokemon has been over the generations and generations and formats that this Pokemon has been legal, it has been consistent, if nothing else. And that is Zapdos. So, I don't think I've actually drafted Zapdos in singles, in VGC, which is kind of weird. Zapdos is kind of a Pokemon that's been around forever. And is a really good Pokemon at that. It's deceptively bulky, it can be made very bulky, but also can deal really good damage even if it's bulky, because 125 special attack. Got 100 speed, which shares the same speed as Taurus, which is one of the reasons why I didn't originally want to pick it up. I didn't have that. I didn't have a too many great Pokemon between like Clefable and Zapdos, but then I ended up changing that. So, Static is amazing. Punishes fake outs. Not the most amazing in coverage, but just its Dual Stab plus Heat Wave can get there. As I say, Tailwind's great. I believe it gets Eerie Impulse for support as well as Thunder Wave. It does not need a lot of moves to do what it does well, and has done well. for generations. Like, Zapdos has been good, I want to say, since it got Heat Wave. Like, it's been good for ages. I don't know how much play it saw in 2012 or 2013, but I know in 2014, 2015, it saw a ton of play. When it came back in 2018, it saw a ton of play. And then saw play in Gen 8 once it came back. It hasn't seen a lot of play in Gen 9, but I think that's more so a power creep problem. But it's been reliable over the years and can be made super bulky if it needs to, or can do a ton of damage as a great offensive electric type. So, yeah. Really great Pokemon. And I did want something like Zapdos. I knew at some point I was going to want Disquake. Originally I was going to go for Rotom Mo. But then I needed to change Tailwind stuff. That's where originally Kilowattrel was going to come in as well, potentially. But eventually I ended up with Zapdos. So that's where my Dis for the Disquake is going to come in. And we'll get to the ground type a little bit later. So, yeah. Zapdos, the second of our A's, because Clefable, so we've got Victory was our one given, and then we've used 2 of our 3 picks on A's, being the Clefable and the Zapdos. So, yeah. Next up, our next 2 Pokemon actually were end up being swapped out. So, kind of funny. Well, it makes sense why. So originally I was gonna try and prove a point, and I was gonna draft Iron Thorns, because I think any team with a Paradox Pokemon becomes infinitely better. And then I was like, no, I need to just change this out for something that fits my team better. So, especially because I originally wanted Iron Thorns, because I was like, okay, I've got some great things that Clefable can support setting up, but I want to make sure I've at least got one more, especially on the physical side, like a physical setup Pokemon. And Iron Thorns could do that. But I changed it because my original Steel type was a Skarmory in D tier, and Skarmory served 0 purpose for the team. And I was like, I need a better Steel type, and I was like, it's got to be a C tier. And I looked at every single Steel type, and I was like, I missed this. How did I miss this? So I picked this up in Grace, and I was like, this is perfect. This is all I could ask for. And that is a physical setup Mon that's a Steel type that could really benefit from that redirection, and that is Revavroot, baby. So, we've all made the joke at this point, why does this Pokemon that is a car, why does this Pokemon not get U-turn? This has been brought to our attention recently. It gets Parting Shot, which is amazing, but why doesn't the car get U-turn? What? Anyway, Revavroot is obviously most known because it can shift gear, and actually has coverage now. Originally at the start of generation, this mod did not have coverage, but it now has shift gear with Temper Flare and high horsepower to actually hit the Steel type that completely walled it, but now is also an amazing Pokemon into Fairy types, which is something else I wanted. It's obviously double poison, and both the poison types are quite weak to ground, but you know, we've got a Zapdos and an Appleton and a Tauros that's like offensive into ground types, so we've got things to actually handle ground types. These are some of the lower tier Pokemon, like this is our C. This is our 3rd C, that's going to come in our 3 points, so, you know. But this is pretty solid Pokemon, like I say, it can do some setup stuff, but also has access to Taunt, it has access to Haze, it can pivot out, it has access to Acid Spray as well, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, it's not a bad Pokemon, but it is going to be mostly used to try and do the big damage. Maybe it gets to do some weird opportunities to, I don't know, to be supportive, especially if I need Haze. And, like, Spectre can't do it for some reason, Revavroot can. And it's decent stats, like 90 speed is a nice speed tier, because it was one that I was looking for, like, again, between that's like, something between Clefable and 100 speed. 90 is nice. It's decently bulky, more so on the physical side with the 90 defense and 80 HP, not so much the special defense, but that's fine, that can easily be patched up. And 119 attack, it's really strong. Terra obviously helps it a ton as well. Terra Flying / Terra Grass to just, you know, not be dominated by by ground types. But also, you know, just Terra Steel or Terra Poison for big damage with Parting Shot / Gunk Shot, or Iron Head. So yeah, really solid Pokemon. Really excited to see how it does overall. As I mentioned, I originally drafted Skarmory next as my D tier, and the original reason for this because I originally wanted Noivern. I was like, well, Skarmory is a Steel type that also gives me, it gives me Tailwind and a Tailwind setup that's better into Fairy types, but also gives me Iron Defense Body Press. This was before I got Zapdos, who doesn't lose to Fairy types, and Appleton, who is a better Iron Defense Body Presser. So Skarmory had no purpose for the team, so I was like, okay, what can I even grab in D tier that makes sense? I was looking at my type chart, I was looking at what I had, and I was like, I was looking at my speed tiers, and I was like, dang, I need a physical attacker that is like mid-speed and could really use to be. It would be really nice if it was also a dark type. And would you believe that that specific set of requirements is not the first time I've asked for something specifically for that from the D tier? So, making its return, while I didn't intend to draft 2 Pokemon returning, I originally was hoping to only make it 1, but we're bringing back the Honchkrow. So, yeah, it does the physical damage. It can go special, but it does the physical damage. It's, you know, it's a bit faster than Clefable, so it gives us something between, you know, it goes Honchkrow, then Revavroom. That's pretty reasonable. It can set Tailwind if it wants, but it's gonna do the big physical damage on the Ghosty boys and the Psychic-y boys. So yeah, that's gonna be its main purpose. I'm not gonna go too much into Honchkrow. I drafted it like not last season, the season before, and I brought it once as a meme, because I hadn't used it all season, and then in finals, and they didn't bring the Pokemon I expected, so it wasn't nearly as good. Didn't end up bringing it, I don't think. So yeah, kind of sucked. But maybe this will be a chance for Honchkrow to shine this time around. Rounding things out, I ended up picking up my E tier, and that is Fletchling. I'm just gonna get right out of the way. We got our 3rd Tailwind setter. Woo! Let's go Tailwind. It gets Scale Wings, it gets Tailwind, and maybe can do a little bit of damage here and there. It gets Taunt, cool. It can U-turn out, great. It gets Feather Dance, which I guess is priority with Gale Wings, which is actually kind of cool, now that I think about it. But for the most part, it's priority Tailwind if I need it. Because my Tailwind setters aren't the fastest. Like, Zapdos is decently fast, but not as fast as, like, you know, some of the other faster Tailwind setters that got drafted. So, having the option for priority Tailwind is nice, but otherwise, nothing crazy. And you might be realizing, wait a minute, rounding out the draft, don't you have an S tier to pick? And you are right. The S tier that we've been saving for the entire time. Because, like, I, like, pick 3, everyone else had picked their S tier, so I had no reason to pick mine until right at the end. So, yeah. If, you know, obviously if you're not part of the UBL and you don't exactly know how this was all going to fit together, I've been after a ground type. I said I really wanted to make sure I had Trick Room. There's only one boy. That is Ursaluna. Now, Ursaluna regular, not Ursaluna Blood Moon. Blood Moon was an S+, and also Gambit took it, like, round 1. So, But I wanted Ursaluna base because this was an S, not an S+. And I'm really excited to use this mod. Why I wanted to make sure I had good Trick Room is why I wanted to make sure I had Disc Wake options. And I also think it's... I literally was like, okay, what's like the most opposite thing I can think of when it comes to Spectra? Spectra is a fast special attacking ghost type. What's the complete opposite of that? A slow physical attacking normal type. And Ursaluna just does that in spades. This one is a demon in Trick Room. Guts Facades have never hit harder. They are incredibly powerful. With that 140 attacks, that is incredibly bulky with that super high base 130 HP and 105 defense. 80 special defense isn't great, but it can be invested in very easily, or just run an assault vest and you still can just run guts and people aren't going to status an Ursaluna unless they know that you're not guts. Like, you can run bulletproof, which is really nice, like, in some matchups to stop things like Focus Blast. I think it's Focus Blast. I think it blocks Focus Blast. It either blocks Focus Blast or Aura Sphere. One of the two. Either way, get this thing into Trick Room. Sure, it can't Terror. That's the, you know, the big downside with our S's. They can't Terror. But this thing does not need to Terror to do the big damage. I would like Terror to be defensive, but it just Guts Facade. Just Guts Facade, and then either High Horsepower or Headlong Rush, either or. One coverage move plus protect, or even potential bulk upsets, and you can't be statused, you have to like haze or phase it out. Yeah, Ursaluna hits like a truck. Like, I think a truck's an understatement. Like, it hits like a freight train. Except the freight train is like having to be forced into a room where the slow freight train gets to go really quickly. And then you just get knocked off your feet and into the stratosphere. So, yeah, incredibly powerful Pokemon and really solidifies Trick Room as something that people have to be ready for. And that's what I really like. Because if they've got to be ready for Trick Room with Ursaluna, and they've got to be ready for Spectria with Fake Out and Follow Me and potential Tailwind, I'm excited to use this team. I'm really, really excited. So, this is the team as a whole on the dock. Ursaluna, Spectria, Reuniclus, Horus, Water, Salazzle, Appleton, Honchcrow, Clefable, Zapdos, Revavroom, and Fletchling. I'm really excited to use this team. I can probably pull it up real quick on the Bullhawk dock. I think I have it on there. Oh, actually, even better. We did PRs, and this kind of helps, so let's see if we... How do I do this again? I forget how to bind, like, thingies. Can I just change the thingy? No. How do I... What's the best way of doing it? Oh, that'll be the best way. No? No, it doesn't. Freaking. There we go. So there's the team. There we go. Took some doing. But yeah, so you can see the speed tiers actually look pretty decent. The offenses look great. It is more of a specially offensive team, but thankfully the special attacks the special and physical attacks look pretty similar. Just because like some of the supporting Pokemon are special, which is nice. We got a couple reds, and now notably some of these, you know, 3 of those are enhanced by Fletchling. So without Fletchling, I think we can just take Fletchling out. I can't adjust it because it's not my dog. But if you take it out, then we're neutral to electric. We're still weak to ice, and are we still weak to... No, we're neutral to rock. So we're neutral to rock and neutral to electric. We're weak to ice and fairy. Because we have 4 ice... Are we neutral to... No, we have 5 ice moves, right? Because we got Ursaluna, Salazzle... Not Salazzle. Ursaluna, Appleton, Honchkrow, Zapdos. That's 4, and we've only got 3 resists. So, yeah. We're weak to ice and we're weak to fairy. And we don't have an ice, a bug, or a rock. I think that's perfectly fine. So, yeah, we've got some slow stuff, we've got some kind of mid-speed stuff, we've got some really fast stuff as well. So, a lot of Tailwind options, like I say, only 1 Trick Room, which sucks. But, yeah, really excited to use this team as a whole. And, yeah, look out for the games coming up. So, I'd love to be the Grand Champion, win Grand Finals, and, you know, win the whole thing. But, you know, there's a lot of new coaches, there's a lot of new potential, and we got to go through a lot to get there. If we want to win Grands, we've got to win at least 5 weeks of the regular season, semi-finals, finals, and Grand Finals to win it all. And once we hit playoffs, we can't lose a single game. Sorry, single match. So, yeah, it's going to be tough if we want to do it. So, but I'm up for the challenge. And this season, if I do win, I will take a season off. Like, I'm sorry, I will do it. I promise. So, but that's gonna do it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys for the matches. So take it easy, everyone. Peace.